All Indiana Politics is your premier source for Indiana politics, focusing on issues that matter to you.
I still want us to be the best in the Midwest.
We can't afford another lockdown.
Give the citizens of this country the relief they need.
Education in the state of Indiana remains priority number one.
In-depth, nonpartisan coverage.
We don't know exactly where the economy will be in January.
People are worried with good reason.
Exclusive interviews with Indiana's political leaders.
We have the resources here in the state of Indiana to care for those who are in need.
Expert analysis on critical legislation.
We need to reform those laws.
This recovery is going to take some time.
We've got to anticipate that there'll be a budget shortfall.
From Wish TV, this is All Indiana Politics Podcast on the All Indiana Podcast Network.
I'm Garrett Bergquist, government reporter for Wish TV and the producer of All Indiana Politics. The new year brings with it a new era in Indiana politics. Just days into the legislative session, Mike Braun was sworn in as the 52nd governor of Indiana. That comes amid intense debate over how to address Indiana's property tax system and how to fix its ongoing Medicaid funding shortfall. Those issues are ultimately up to the Indiana General Assembly. In an exclusive joint interview with All Indiana Politics, House Speaker Todd Huston and House Minority Leader Phil Giaquinta both tell me we can expect some kind of property tax solution this session. We also talked about the prospect of working with the Braun administration and a controversial bill to dissolve Indianapolis Public Schools. And joining us now are the two highest-ranking members of the Indiana House of Representatives, House Speaker Todd Huston and House Minority Leader Phil Giaquinta. Gentlemen, welcome to you both.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Yep, thanks.
So, Mr. Speaker, I'll begin with you. We've got a new governor now, and it's worth pointing out that Governor Braun did serve for about 1.5 terms in the Indiana House before he went to the Senate. How does that change the power dynamic between the General Assembly and the governor's office?
Well, I think, Governor Braun's previous experience in the State House and the House Republican Caucus, he's very aware of the work that we do and how we do our work. And I don't think it'll change the power dynamic. It's always been collaborative, and I suspect it'll continue to be that way with Governor Braun.
And so, to Leader Giaquinta then, do you see any areas where Democrats might be able to also work with the Braun administration?
Oh, for sure, yeah. I looked at the last couple sessions where we worked with House Republicans on several issues, and particularly when it comes to healthcare costs and the things that we've done with regards to transparency and hospital billing and those sorts of things. So I'm sure we're always open-minded to extend our hand and to work on any issues that the governor's going to feel like that's important to his agenda with regards to, again, healthcare costs, education funding, those type of things. So, yeah, we're willing and ready and able.
Mr. Speaker, we've already seen multiple pieces of legislation filed in both chambers on property taxes. Senate Republicans have basically brought in Braun's plan as Senate Bill 1, and you've indicated that, at least for the time being, we're going to let the Senate take the lead on that. From what you're seeing in your caucus, how likely is it we get some sort of property tax relief, and what shape might that take?
I think we'll get property tax relief. The way it works is the budget starts in the House, and we'll spend our time focusing in the first half of the legislative session on the budget. The Senate's put property tax relief as Senate Bill 1, and they'll deal with it in the first half. Then we'll switch sides and I'll have a chance to do the budget, and we'll have a chance to do property taxes. But look, we've heard loud and clear from our constituents that they want they want property tax relief and more reliable tax bills without huge leaps. And we're working together to find that right balance between making sure that we provide property tax relief and yet also make sure that the local units of government have the resources they need to be able to provide the services that their constituents want.
And to that point, Leader Giaquinta, several members of your caucus have raised the concern of potentially losing some of that local tax revenue, and your party's nominee for governor brought that up as well. What to you would be a solution that would prevent that while still getting that property tax relief?
Well, and it's complicated. We recognize that. One thing that we've said is that we don't believe, anyway, that funding for education has kept up where it should have, at least the previous 10 years compared to the 10 years before that. And so that has resulted in school districts having to go pass referendum, which then leads to an increase in property taxes. So, if there's ways that we can make sure that we're fully funding education education in all forms in the state, that will help with property taxes. And just along that same lines, we do think that we need, I've said before, we need more property owners. That includes obviously looking at ways to build on plenty of vacant land and spots around the state that have been old houses that have been torn down. How can we get more inventory into the state? And then what can we do to make ways for folks that can't currently, for particularly new homeowners that can't currently buy a house? Is there some assistance that the state can provide? We need more property owners.
And I would note, Garrett, that Indiana already is a low property tax state, so the system doesn't need to be completely blown up. It needs to be refined to make sure we don't see such large, increases that property tax payers have seen the last few years. And then, as noted, just finding the right balance between what local units of government need for the needs and services that they offer, and what is the relief we can provide to the actual individual property tax owner.
And I'll add too, and maybe I didn't answer it, when it does come to local governments, we want to make sure that they have the necessary funding to do what they have to do, which is provide for police and fire and things like that. So that's just a cautionary measure that we want to make sure that we're not hurting local governments, because they do have a lot of responsibilities to their citizens.
Will we see, Mr. Speaker, a long-term fix for the Medicaid waiver wait list?
Well, I think there's going to be a lot of discussions around Medicaid in general. As we've noted, this is an incredibly important topic. Right now, the Medicaid costs are skyrocketing, having a huge impact on our budget, which means it's hard to come up with the dollars to support other needed programs like education, infrastructure, and other health-related programs. So, look, I think it's not just looking at the wait list, looking at the system as a whole, making sure that the Hoosiers that are eligible are on Medicaid, but making sure that those that don't meet eligibility requirements aren't receiving Medicaid benefits too. So, we're going to have a comprehensive discussion around Medicaid. We are completely aware of the fact that that's helping some of the most needy Hoosiers in the state. We want to make sure we have a program that supports them, but a program that also is within the fiscal constraints that we have to be all and meets the needs of the folks that are receiving those services, but also is fiscally responsible.
And Leader Giaquinta, what can we expect from Democrats on this issue?
As I've said before, where there's a will, there's a way. So we'll look for ways to make sure that those are most vulnerable or neediest Hoosiers are taken care of. And you can look at different sort of priorities that have been taken place in the last couple budgets with regards to funding, for example, for IEDC or a further increase in the private school voucher program. I mean, there's some money there that could potentially we could use to fill these funding gaps. So, I think it's just a matter of the budget writers getting together, and we'll figure this out to make sure that our neediest Hoosiers are taken care of.
In his inaugural address, Governor Braun called for Hoosiers to be risk takers, and this is for both of you. Does this herald a new approach to policymaking, and if so, what sort of risks are your caucuses willing to take in terms of the risks that Governor Braun is calling for? Mr. Speaker, we'll begin with you.
I think we've always appreciated Governor Braun's comments. We've led the Midwest in almost every statistic that you could want to look at as far as economic development, population growth, those types of things, and that meant taking risks. That meant believing that if you cut taxes, believing that you created an economic environment that was good for people, that we would attract people and businesses to our state. That's been proven out correctly. We've led on so many issues around education and energy that I think it's just building upon that. As I think Governor Braun would note, we have a really, really, really solid foundation in this state right now, and I think we want to take the appropriate risk. We want to make the right investments to continue the momentum that we have.
Yeah, I'm not. Risks are fine and fun, but I'm sort of a prove it to me type person. I want to know what works. show me the proof that things that we're doing will be beneficial, what actually does work in the long run. There are many studies out there that show that certain things are worth doing and certain things aren't. And I think we should always sort of bring in a lot of experts out there, when it comes to anything with regards to changing the way we do. I mean, that's a broad topic, but anything within education, let's hear from those that are in the trenches, the teachers, the superintendents, those sorts of folks, as to what's working. And I'm always willing to try different things as well, but I do want to make sure that whatever we do propose or do try to do is proven to be beneficial.
And Leader Giaquinta, you alluded to education. Now, we've already seen quite a bit of concern over one bill in particular that would dissolve Indianapolis Public Schools and Garrett Community Schools, among others, that have more than half of their enrollment switching to charters or private schools, that sort of thing. Mr. Speaker, a lot of the families in these communities still choose traditional public schools. Does this punish them for something they didn't do?
No, first of all, the majority don't in this instance. We should note that the majority of families do not choose the local public school. They choose other public options like public charter schools, but look, we note all the time, don't judge us where we start, judge us, don't judge us in the middle, judge us at the end. This is a opportunity to have a discussion about what should the schools look like. What best fits the needs of the students, and we believe very strongly in school choice, and the fact that parents should make the choice that is the best fit for their student. There'll be a whole lot of bills that deal with these types of issues, and this is just one of them, and we'll work its way through its process to get to the best spot at the end. But we're having lots of good conversations with all the different stakeholders, and we'll continue to have those.
Leader Giaquinta, to the Speaker's point, if we're seeing so many families in these particular districts choose an option other than traditional public schools, does that suggest that something needs to change within those school corporations?
Well, it could suggest that we should have put more emphasis and funding within those traditional public schools. And also, I have not, as I alluded to earlier, about show me the proof, show me what's happening. And for example, many of these charter schools we've seen are not doing well. When you look at the statistics versus traditional public schools versus charters, public education is clearly outperforming charters. Not in every case, but in most cases. And so I do think that going forward, we need to look at the data, see what it's telling us. And I do find it a little bit ironic that we talk about choice, but here we're going to be eliminating some of the choices of the traditional public schools. So there'll be a lot of conversation.
Exactly. If the bill would pass, I would just. I would just push back respectfully on my friend Leader Giaquinta. The fact of the matter is that charters are outperforming in Indianapolis the traditional public schools. There have been multiple studies that have shown that, and frankly, families are voting with their feet, and we just want to make sure that the resources follow the student to where they're being educated. That's at the core of what we want to see, is that the resources follow the student to the school that best fits their needs. And that's what this discussion is about. And we'll continue to have it throughout this session, and we'll see where we land.
I want to close with this. Around the State House, we sometimes talk about the Valentine's Day surprise, the issue that crops up during session that we don't expect. And obviously, it's kind of hard to predict what's going to unfold over the next 3.5 months, but at least from where you sit right now, where are you watching for any potential Valentine's Day surprises? Mr. Speaker?
I'm not sure I know, because it's a surprise, right? I think there's always, as you get to the back end of the budget, we do a different revenue forecast that absolutely informs the budget, and sometimes those forecasts can see pretty substantial differences. But we've always had, and while we don't always agree on everything, we've always had a very good working relationship with our colleagues across the aisle. I try not to surprise people too much, and so hopefully there won't be any big surprises. But there's always issues that come up and throughout the session where maybe it wasn't an issue on people's radar screen as we began the session, but generate some interest as the session goes on. So certainly there's a possibility something could pop up, but I don't know what that is right now.
Well, there's I think a bill came out committee today, I think, with regard to bare knuckle brawling. So hopefully we won't have too much of that on the House floor this year.
We'll try to avoid that.
No, just a couple things. If I can talk about good surprises, I would love to see in our budget that we are fully funding pre-K. That would be a pleasant surprise and a good one. Maybe not a pleasant surprise, because I do think that while we've done this incrementally, we'll see what we can do going forward. So hopefully that will be the surprise that I like to see.
House Speaker Todd Huston and House Minority Leader Phil Giaquinta, thank you both for coming in today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And you've been listening to an exclusive interview with House Speaker Todd Huston and House Minority Leader Phil Giaquinta. Remember, you can watch All Indiana Politics every Sunday morning at 9:30, only on Wish TV. I'm Garrett Bergquist. Thanks for listening.
From Wish TV, this is All Indiana Politics Podcast on the All Indiana Podcast Network. Watch All Indiana Politics live Sunday mornings at 9:30 on Wish TV and at wishtv.com. Subscribe to this podcast and listen weekly here on the All Indiana Podcast Network. And be sure to discover even more great podcasts at allindianapodcastnetwork.com.